I mean, I think the big question for 2023, the more you read, whether you're an online reader, whether you're reading newspapers across the U.S., which is, of course, our primary feeder market, you're hearing rumblings of recession, correction, regression. And one of the things that I was taught a long time ago by a mentor in the real estate world is to never get into the business of predicting what I can't control. However, what I try to do and what I try to teach all of our agents here at Two Costa Rica Real Estate is to pay attention to what you're seeing on the ground. That's the only thing that matters. And as we look at what's going on in U.S. real estate markets, we're certainly seeing in some markets pockets of correction, price reductions, and typically those price reductions, what we're seeing, and perhaps what I expect to see in Costa Rica, is the gap between buyer expectation and seller expectation, right? We're seeing a tremendous amount of demand right now, and that demand so far towards the end of January here has not dropped off from where we were in 2022 at the peak. We're seeing a tremendous amount of demand across the board, really in all of our coastal markets particularly. But because of the news cycle that talks recession, regression, correction, evidently there will be buyers who are going to look to leverage that news cycle to try to find better values and bridging the gap between perhaps a seller who sat out the 2 years of what has been one of the most dynamic real estate markets we've ever seen, and those buyers who are watching the news. That, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge both for sellers and buyers. Yeah, I think that's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get, and I think it's important to remember that while there's a lot of similarities to the Costa Rican real estate market, tourism trends, second home, third home, investment markets, and certainly lifestyle movements that we saw during the pandemic, there's a big difference, right? Costa Rica, at the end of the day, historically has been an all-cash market. So our buyers historically were never over-leveraged at the bank. They never got cheap or free capital, which is the case in many U.S. markets, which saw drastic increases in building, drastic increases in inventory, of course. And in Costa Rica, even in our most developed coastal markets, there's really a small amount of inventory. And in any real estate market, that's really what drives the market, right? Demand. What is going on between supply and demand, the relationship between the two. And because we have never had and currently don't have a massive overload of inventory that got built during the pandemic, I think Costa Rica is fairly well positioned moving forward to avoid a lot of the drastic corrections that you'll see in many other markets. I think that there's definitely going to be a challenge in specific markets, not necessarily across the board, but I think we'll be challenged to continue as we do here at Two Costa Rica to educate sellers to make sure that they're in line with buyer expectations. At the end of the day, we don't control the market. The market controls the market, right? We just dictate and transmit to our clients, both buyers and sellers. I think one of the other things that we'll see as we transition out of post-pandemic years is that so much land that was grabbed up during the pandemic is now being developed. And so one of the things that I think will help offset any corrections is you're starting to see new inventory hit the market in more aggressive price ranges that typically didn't exist in many of these coastal markets like Santa Teresa, like Nosara, like Tamarindo, and will help fill the void for a lot of buyers that couldn't acquire property during the pandemic when prices started to rise. You know, this is the tone of our entire 2023 to date. In every single weekly sales call that we have with each and every one of our agents, my message is to pay attention locally to what's going on. While the news cycle is important, and it's important for us as agents, it's important for buyers and sellers to know what's going on in the U.S., Canadian, and global economic and real estate markets. At the end of the day, there are micro capsules in real estate markets all over the world. And as long as our market continues on the track that it does, it's important for our agents to watch for signs in the market. Our properties staying on the market longer, our prices tending to be reduced, our prices staying the same, our prices going up, our buyer expectations changing. Are we hearing constantly from buyers issues of that expectation? And with sellers, of course, to help educate and transmit what we're hearing in the marketplace to help them both maximize values when they're looking to sell, but also stay realistic to the market values to avoid the typical trap of being set on the market for months and months at a time, waiting for a miracle buyer who may not come. At the end of the day, like anything else in the world, properties are worth what people are willing to pay for them.